All right, we're going to be installing the Dueces Wild EFI kit from Aces EFI onto my 1971 International Travelette. It has a 345, an overdrive 5-speed, 35-inch tires, and 456 axle gears. I did an earlier run with the carburetor to get some mileage numbers. So we'll show you what's going on under the hood right now. You can see got the good old 345 Holley 2300 carburetor. We have a Pertronix module in the distributor. Not a lot of accessories, just running power steering. Got the old vacuum booster. I've already installed a second fuse panel relay setup for some other accessories I'm running because this is a chase truck for desert racing. This is my personal truck. I use it every day. That's why it's dirty and full of stuff, because that's what I do. So anyways, we'll get going on this install, and hopefully you guys can learn something along the way. So the first thing I'm going to do is install the throttle body. So you'll get your hardware pack that has the gaskets, as your gaskets and stuff, and get your hardware out and go ahead and install the studs first. Tell just these studs. So the coarse thread side will go into the manifold, and your 304, 345, 392, they're all the same. I'm going to use some pliers to give the studs an extra turn. You could double nut them or do something, but you grab it at the very bottom. Don't grab the threads. Grab it down here where it's still smooth until you can't turn it anymore with the pliers. It doesn't have to be gorilla tight. You just don't want it walking out, you know. Get your gasket. There's only one way it goes on. Just like that. You know, my intake was already clean because that carburetor hadn't been on there that long. If your stuff's been on here a while, you are gonna have to do some cleanup on it. One thing I'm already seeing, we're gonna have a huge vacuum leak right here. Let's see if I can show you. Intake manifold gasket, or the carb gasket. See, there's a space right here. That freeze plug, that's a vacuum is just gonna rush in under that. So I'm probably gonna have to use a different base gasket than the one that was supplied in the kit. So I'm gonna have to dig through my collection and see if I can come up with something better than that, because that won't work for us. So, like any good international guy, I dug through my old gaskets and found a base gasket from a carb rebuild kit that I didn't use. And I put a notch in it because it was gonna hit right here on the throttle arm. So notched it out. It's gonna do what we needed to do. So we'll make sure she fits. Yep, drops right on there. One of the things I like to do too is splash a little WD-40 underneath that base gasket so it doesn't stick, in case you got to take this thing off sometime. See, it's gonna seal right over that hole now. So I'll set the camera back up stationary and we'll put the throttle body on. Drop that right on. It looks like everything clears. Throttle moves clear and easy. Put my rag back in the holes here, because the last thing you want is something falling down there. So just do that. I mean, you can put some tape over it or something, whatever, but we just don't want anything falling down the holes. So in your hardware pack is the nuts to secure that down. So go ahead and secure the throttle body down. There's no lock washers or anything in this kit, so I'm gonna add some of my own because I feel better if there's lock washers. So I just grabbed some regular old 5/16 split lock washers. I'm just gonna drop them on there. If you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I have a tendency to find the failure points and everything. You know, I could probably break a steel ball in a rubber room if you gave me the opportunity. So thread them on there. Remember, if you watch the unboxing video, there are no paper instructions for this install. This is all, you gotta go online, go to the Aces EFI website, and download it there or print it there. I am just going by what I know, because that's what I do. Who knows? I gently snug each one up. You don't want to go gorilla tight on the first one. You don't want to warp or bend the base plate. So snug, snug. All right, now it's down and tight. We'll start stringing some wires, I think. So if you saw the unboxing video, there was no manual included, partially because they're constantly updating things, and so sometimes the printed manuals are not up to date. So you can get them online. I figured I should probably do you guys a service and print the manual myself so I can actually review it while I'm doing this install, because I'm brand new to this just like you guys are. It's 53 pages long, so I'm currently printing it, and then we'll get back to it. But I am going to continue installing some sensors and things like that while I'm waiting for it to print out, and go from there. But I'm just gonna keep plugging stuff in and hooking things up until I figure otherwise. So this gray plug goes back here, plugs in like that, snaps in good. We know the silver wrapped one is for the O2 sensor, although this tag says O1, but it's O2 sensor. So we're gonna end up running that. It's pretty much straight down, because there's the head pipe right there. We've got this is the coolant temp sensor wire, but our coolant port is right here, so we have a lot of wire. I'm not going to cut it. We're just going to end up probably rolling it up like that. And then we'll plug it in to the sensor when we install it. I'm just doing a layout right now to make sure nothing's going to jump out at me and throw us off. That says fuel. I'm guessing that's for the fuel pressure sensor. We'll set that aside for now. VR, not sure what that's for. Coil, that's if you're running their supplied coil for timing control. We are not. So that'll just get zip tied up. The rest of this stuff, is all relays and power supply wires and things like that. So I think I'm going to mount everything. If you can see it, you probably can't see it. I'm going to mount everything right here. I'll put the computer and all of our relays and fuses right here in this empty spot. The computer is in an aluminum case and it's got epoxy on it. It's not what I would consider waterproof, but it is weather resistant. I think right here it'll be safe. It should be fine. So I'm gonna string out some more of these wires and then get the layout a little bit better, and we'll go from there. So I mounted the ECM or computer, whatever you want to call it, mounted the 2 relays and the fuses there. So now I will take these 2 wires and terminate them to their respective battery posts, and then the other 2 wires, the orange and the little red, will go to this keyed on fuse panel. It's for clean power for the system. The other thing to note is they did not include any hardware for mounting the relays or the fuses, so I just used number 10 self-drilling screws. They did include rubber bushings for the computer mount, which you must use. The isolators are very important. So make sure you mount the computer on those rubber isolators and round up some number 10 self-drillers, or however you want to mount the relays and fuses. We've got some thunderstorms rolling in and thunder and lightning. I terminated my ends. Whatever you do, if you have plugged in the computer and you got your sensors plugged in or the throttle bodies plugged in, do not hook up those wires. Do not hook up the power and ground to the battery. Not even for a second. Don't get anxious and hook it up. You don't want to put power to anything until you got the handheld plugged in, until you are ready to move on with the initial startups. So leave that unhooked until the very end. Or don't hook up the sensors and the other stuff until the very end. Either way, you don't want power going to this thing until you are absolutely ready. Speaking of power, the power is out in the shop. So I'll see what I can get done with no electricity. Luckily, I'm working outside like a hillbilly. But yeah, we'll do the best we can for today. And day 2 is probably going to be fuel tank dropping and fuel pump setup. And hopefully initial fire. We'll see. But anyway, I'll keep moving on while I can. So I was able to get a few more things done, but now I'm really stuck because the power still hasn't come back on. But I changed out the coolant temp sensor. With the international motors, a lot of the intake manifolds have that port right there. You might have a vacuum tree in there, and if you're switching to EFI, you're not going to use that vacuum tree anyways, so get it out of there. Use that port for the temp sensor. Resist the urge to put it up here. You don't want it there. You want it in the back of the manifold where the water gets the hottest. That helps the sensor, read as accurately as possible. I also drilled the hole for the O2 sensor right there, if you can see it, in my downpipe. I used the last of the air in the air tank, my 90-degree drill with the unibit, step bit. So tomorrow, hopefully the power's on and we can weld in the bung and get this thing hopefully fired up. Just got to do the fuel tank, fuel line, fuel pump, and get her plumbed in there. So anyway, more tomorrow.